Hello, everybody. Thank you for returning to our YouTube channel. This is Brian with Technology for Ukraine, and I am here with my good friend James from the Birds of Fury, or the Angry Birds in Ukrainian. So, together we create innovative technologies for the Ukrainian armed forces. And if you would like to join us, there's a link in the description, and also check out their website and join us at Technology United for Ukraine. If you're an engineer, scientist, technologist, or somebody who wants to help out Ukraine, come check us out. All right, James, you take it away, brother.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for that introduction, Brian. And definitely, you guys check out Technology for Ukraine. And my my unit, the that I fight for, is the Birds of Fury, and we primarily do fixed wing tactical range bombers here in Ukraine. Um, So I'm actually part of the Ukrainian drone force as an American citizen. Um, I can't tell you where I am or exactly what my job is, but I think you can kind of get the idea. So today, what we are going to talk about is um, the fact that China is blocking delivery of drones directly to Ukraine, and kind of what problems this is causing, and how Ukraine is or will or might um, get around these issues, because we know for certain that while China might be blocking uh, drone exports directly to Ukraine, they're not blocking them to Russia, you know. And this is something that is really critical, and could tip the whole balance of the war. In fact, so what do you think about this, Brian?
Well, and that is it only to Ukraine or the entire world? Is it like, can you get them to Poland? Can you get them to Germany, for example, US?
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of interesting. China is, first of all, uh, it's my understanding they're talking. I don't know that they have actually restricted drones to the United States, but they've been talking about it. So I haven't heard that it's actually happened yet. But you know, uh, for a company like DJI, I mean, that's a business killer. So I can't imagine that they would that they would be
Oh,
able to do that and stay afloat. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
So,
Um,
do you think it's just kind of a I'm trying to think of the right word here. It's just something they're doing to say to Russia, like, okay, look, yeah, we're trying. But in reality, people are just going to buy them through other countries and deliver them to Ukraine. But it's kind of like a little token thing they're doing for Russia, but in the long run, really doesn't mean anything.
yeah, like they're trying to play both sides against the middle.
Yeah, look,
It's
we
a question.
tried is what they can say. Look, we tried.
Yeah, right, right. But this is the problem with China, potentially going into a trade war with the United States. And this was just one aspect of that. Is that they're cutting off their nose to spite their face economically there, and this is so this is a very interesting, connected article to this one, um, about how, so it's not just drones. It's key components used to build unmanned aerial vehicles to the U.S. and Europe. But see, ultimately, this is going to be a huge boon and that's the point of this article. I think this is going to be a huge boon to not just to Ukraine, but also to, like, for example, American and European manufacturers of drones, because China, like they do with so many things, they use their massive government corporate funding to dump it's called dumping, right? Where they dump a lot of cheap goods onto a foreign market to drive those manufacturers out of the market. And once those manufacturers in the United States or some other country have basically gone out of business and can no longer manufacture that thing, or they just don't have enough market share, then they can start to raise their prices. The Chinese companies, and so this is what they have historically done with lots and lots of things, and drones are no exception. So this actually provides an opening. And this article is specifically about Ukraine inches closer to self-sufficient FPV drone manufacturing, um, but also for American and European drone manufacturers that have been pushed out of the market by companies like DJI. This is an in. This is a a foot back into the door, essentially. And I think that very quickly, within a year, I think that we're going to see um, that DJI is no longer dominant in just the civilian drone market, and uh, you know. It's funny, I can't even think of a US drone manufacturer off the top of my head. that's how
Yeah,
that's how like small they are. But I'm thinking of there's other companies that are going to jump in and really pick that up really, really quickly. And once they get to a certain scale, then their prices, just due to the economy of scale, their prices will start to come down, and then they will be able to compete over the long term with companies like DJI. Um, in Ukraine, it's about developing those manufacturing capabilities. So, frankly, for the last 3 years of this war, the drone quote unquote industry has gone from in Ukraine has gone from duct tape and chicken wire um, to really being able to manufacture things, at least prototyping.
yeah.
The prototyping capability is definitely there. Now, if we're talking about was talking about circuit boards, the small controllers. And this article is really good because it shows, even though it's in Ukrainian here, I think this graphic is a good one, so that people can understand. We can make it full size there. So, there are really realistically only two big circuit boards. There can be some more. There can be three or four, depending on what you want them to do. So in Ukrainian, that says Polotny controller. Okay, that's the pilot controller. Okay, so a lot of times when we speak about a drone controller, people think of the thing you hold in your hand. Okay, but when we speak about a controller, we're actually talking about the circuit board that takes the instructions from the controller that you hold in your hand. And then this is the regulator operative, which basically translates as power regulator or the power distributor. So this is the thing that takes the power from the battery and distributes it to the motor. This has virtually no electronics on it. Okay, because it has to heat. It's going to get hot. You can just imagine it gets hotter than a piss ant on a fire ant. Okay, so as I was saying, so this this power regulator, this can get real hot, real freaking hot. So there's not a lot of electronics on it. This right here, and also this board over here, which is your antenna controller, effectively. And there can also be other electronics like a more advanced video controller, all sorts of things like that you can add on. But so these chips are the pieces that are being made, that were being made in the People's Republic of China, and are now starting to be made here in Ukraine. And I myself, I've personally seen some of these, and the nice thing about them is the Ukrainian companies are able to make their purpose built. They're able to make them expressly for the exact purposes that Ukraine is using them for. Whereas, a Chinese like DJI drone or some of these other Chinese drones, they're not built with military purposes in mind originally or typically. So they're adapted for that purpose. So we're seeing real innovation. The problem comes when you start to deal with the problems of scale. So mass manufacturing. In other words, I don't know. Do you know what a wave solder machine is?
I don't.
Okay. So, it's a good opportunity. So wave solder machine. When you no, I don't want a video. Just an image will do. It's a big ass giant machine, and you put the circuit boards in there without any solder on them. And maybe I do want a video actually. And then let's see. We'll just find a real. It's amazing how this works. Turn the sound off here. So here's an old circuit board. This is probably for the 1990s, but it gives you an idea of how a wave soldering machine works. This is how circuit boards are soldered en masse. Here, it just goes through this conveyor belt. Maybe I should put it on 2 times speed here, so you can get an idea. And this is a huge, massive, expensive machine. Okay, so it goes in here, and inside this chamber, there's right there. Okay, that is flux, I think. Yeah, that is soldering flux. And then the next part of the chamber, right there, that metallic, that is liquid metal. Okay, and so the board is just barely making contact. So every metal surface on the board, remember, it's all made of silicon except the little metal parts where all the little doodads and chips and things connect. That's how circuit boards are soldered en masse. So there's a real lack of these here in Ukraine, which restricts Ukraine's ability to manufacture these very important parts. Okay. It takes time. It takes time. It takes a lot of investment. This kind of a machine, $100,000 to start is at the low end. And this is a thing from like the 1990s. So I'm sure they cost a lot more now. Yeah. So you can see here it is coming out the other side. Boosh, there it is. It's like we're watching an episode of How It's Made. You can see how old this thing is, though. That's like something I would have worked on when I worked at HP in the 1990s. So these require even a much more advanced wave soldering machine because they're very small boards. They're about this big, and the components on them are very small, very fine. We call it fine pitch soldering. And so this is the part that Ukraine has been missing, and this is what is starting to happen. And then the second part is the carbon fiber frames. So that is something that is being manufactured and has been manufactured. The propellers of these drones. As you may have seen, if you guys have ever seen a drone, the propeller spins at a very high speed. You can't reliably 3D print a drone propeller, insofar as I am aware. Okay, because it's made up. You've got little 3D print is made up of a bunch of additive little pieces of plastic, and what happens when you try to 3D print them, and I've seen it happen. Okay, is the their propeller just goes shatters like glass in all directions, and it's actually incredibly dangerous because it's going like freaking 60 bajillion miles an hour. So you can't. It has to be plastic injection molded, high pressure, high strength plastic, and those machines require, I'm not going to Google what that looks like, but it's a big ass machine, and so these things all take time and a lot of money to develop here. So this, look at this. Ukraine made. I have not seen these personally myself. Vridi flight controllers. That's super cool. I have seen some, but not these exact models. And so ultimately, this comes down to, American manufacturers. They might have the money to start ramping up their manufacturing, but their capabilities are not going to be anywhere near as advanced in terms of the chips and what they can do as Ukraine's are, because the cycle of development, right, is so much faster, just incredibly fast.
And the quality, you think, will be far greater?
Well, necessarily, right? Necessarily so, because I mean, sure, it won't start out as good, okay, but if you don't have good quality, no fighting unit on the front line is going to want to use your stuff, okay, and second, it's you have to improve. It's a continuous process of improvement by necessity.
So I guess the way to think about it, and initially this could be a disadvantage, but the Russians will continue to use drones that are more made for hobbyists, whereas the Ukrainians will end up having drones specifically geared for the battlefield and for the mission. So there'll be a great now divide between the quality and the ability of the Ukrainian drones to be utilized in a combat scenario, whereas the Russians are adapting something really not initially made for the combat zone. So you could see that becoming an advantage for the Ukrainians in the long run.
Yeah. I mean, just like the Chinese, the Russians steal technology as fast as they can.
Yeah, right,
and
right.
and they are able to uh because they basically got a communist command economy now.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to they find one thing and they're like, boom, let's make 10,000 of those.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, Ukraine is a lot more like Silicon Valley, or maybe like old school Silicon Valley. You've got 100 different companies all working away in secret and in silence, and they're not communicating with each other. A lot of them are, reinventing the wheel. And you got 3 different companies all working on the same thing. This is a problem, and this is something that my group, my unit, and the company that makes our drones, that we are actively trying to fight against that siloization. There are some good sides about it and some bad things about it. There's arguably more innovation because there's more competition, but there's also a lot of waste, and again, it makes it very difficult to scale. And so Ukraine is in this very tenuous, place right now where they're trying to ramp up, they're trying to scale production, but they also have to maintain innovation. And that is something that I'm personally very concerned with.
And and on what you're saying here, just anybody out there watching, if you're an expert in this area, join us. Maybe this is something you can help spearhead. There's a lot of access for Westerners to give their input through our organization and through the Birds of Fury. So go join us, and maybe you can help with this innovation.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There really is. There's a need for not just engineers. There's a need for project managers. There's a need for fundraisers, and I would even dare say investors. Although that's maybe not our focus at the moment, but it is something to think about because down down the road when this war is over, or even before, um, you know Ukrainian companies are maybe not dominate the not just drone market, but technology market in general. Um, they're going to be incredibly competitive. I mean, I would say, I mean, one of the reasons that I came to Ukraine in the first place was way back in 2013, 2014, when Maidan was happening. I was a VP of an IT company, and we hired Ukrainians as outsource tech workers. And we hired people from all over the world, but I always found that Ukrainians gave us the best quality for the lowest price for whatever we needed them to do. It doesn't matter if it was writing code, project management, uh, engineering, and name it. They were all over it, and I was just really impressed by that. And it's one of the reasons why I actually came to Ukraine. In fact, um, so um, I have every confidence that investing in Ukraine, if you're a foreigner thinking about, you know, uh, oh, I don't know, do I want to invest in a country that's at war? Yeah, get in while the getting's good, because very quickly you're not you're not going to be able to do it. It's gonna,
The opportunity
um,
presented.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So this is pretty interesting here. So this is the video showing how these boards are manufactured, and I think it's well, for me, for a guy who this is where I lived and breathed when I worked for HP and Apple. Um, so you can see these boards being it's all done. So this is in Ukraine. Amazing, just amazing stuff. So these are all the components being assembled on there. And so they're making 8 boards. Wow, that was amazing. So they're making 8 boards at a time, uh, and then they punch them out, and then they put them through a wave solder machine. It's amazing stuff. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to see. It warms my heart.
For a tech guy. That's
For a
like,
tech guy like me, yeah.
yeah.
It's fantastic stuff. So yeah, so that's it. I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword here, right? In that, yeah, it's going to be tough times for us here in Ukraine, but I think that in the end, it's going to make us better. It's going to make
The mother of invention. So
yeah,
sometimes, and I think it's gives us another insight into how China is, how they could just cut something off and control a conflict, for example. So,
yeah,
we're not sending this, we're not going to give that. And
yeah,
because we're so reliant on them, you're stuck. That's it. They're dictating the outcome of something. So I think this is another lesson for us to have alternative opportunities for industries, manufacturing, and stuff that we're not so reliant on the Chinese.
yep. And again, this has been a problem for a long time in America. But this also shows you how this war. I'm sorry, but World War III is already upon us. Okay, it already is a global war, at
Yep.
least economically, and
A proxy,
um,
right?
yeah,
A
yeah.
proxy right now. I mean, everybody's involved in it in one way or another.
Right, exactly. And it's very interesting here. I just want to point out part of this article. So this is talking about some components here, which is specifically thermal cameras, which are incredibly difficult to get in general. But here it says here, so however, both companies still remain dependent on Chinese suppliers. CQV is trying to change this situation by switching to an American component and matrix for these cameras. Okay, that's so this is this is a situation where this is directly benefiting America and the United States. You know, so Ukraine is going to, Ukraine is getting money from Europe or from whatever sources they're getting money from, and they're going to spend it in America, right? So, it's going to be some hard times, but like I said, now is the time to get in on this, people. Is what I would say, really. So please, like I said, please join us, join our initiative, and join if you are in the United States or outside of Ukraine. Please, Technology United for Ukraine.
Yep. We got
Go to this
all
website,
world,
technologyforukraine.com.
all of them. South Korea, Germany, Canada, you name
Great.
it. We got
Great.
great minds come from all over.
Fantastic. And so this is my unit, of course, and if you'd like to help, you can go to birdsoffury.com, which we just got the domain in English now, birdsoffury.com. I'm very happy to say, but it goes directly. Zlizibir is Ukrainian for Birds of Fury. If you'd like to help us manufacture these drones and continue to do innovation, you can do so here. And I would be remiss if I did not mention my own page. So I should do that because it is my channel after all. If you'd like to help me in my work, I'm actually going to be probably putting the fundraiser for my unit back up on this page, whyukraine.com. We had some massive changes and transitions in our organization in the last month. So, but now I'll right now, if you want to help out my channel and the work I'm doing, you can do it here, and it's much better than contributing through like YouTube. People can do like super chats in YouTube, and that's great. But YouTube takes 30% of that, and in this case, I think I lose 2%. So it's a little bit better. Whyukraine.com. So there you go. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for coming with us on this journey. And I hope we get to see some of you involved soon.
Slava Ukraine.
Heroam Slava. Do побачення.